Continue in تذكرة السامع والمتكلم. We're in chapter number 3, point number 9, in which the author, rahimahullah, he mentions that if the student tries to attain more than that which he is fit to attain or suitable for him, or above his capability, and the teacher fears for him being put off, he advises him with being gentle with himself. And he reminds him with the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that the one who cuts off from his travel due to making himself and the animal carry too much has not traveled the land nor saved a back, by meaning of the hadith. But this narration is not authentic from the Prophet ﷺ. And other narrations which should make him be patient and take a middle path in striving. Similarly, if he sees from him some type of getting tired, or the beginning of seeing that, he commands him with taking rest, or making it easy on himself. He should not indicate upon the student to learn that which he won't be able to understand, or his age is not suitable for, nor a book which he will not be able to understand. If the one whom the Shaykh does not know his situation in memory and understanding seeks from the Shaykh a book or science to study, he should not direct him to one until he tests his understanding and knows his condition. If he sees that he should be delayed a bit in that field, then he directs him to an easy book. But if he sees he is capable, he directs him to a book which is suitable for him. He does not allow the student to study 2 fields or more if he is not strong, but rather he puts forth that which is more important, as we will mention inshaAllah. If he knows or he thinks that he won't be successful in a field, he directs him to leave it and move on to another one, where he hopes he will be successful in it. Regarding the benefits pertaining to the speech of the author, one benefit we get is that being continuous in studying little, or that which you are capable of, is better for you than trying to attain a lot and then cutting off or stopping. And this is a principle in the acts of worship. Meaning, from the principles of acts of worship is that one does little so long as it is continuous, and does not do a lot and cuts off. For the legislation praises the act of worship which is connected and continuous, even if little, and looks down on stopping it, or stopping the acts of worship, even if it is much. It comes in Sahihain that the most beloved acts of the Prophet ﷺ was that which was continuous, even if it was little. And a student should be like this, meaning that he should be continuous in his studies, even if it is little. An example, if he is capable of reading half a juz or memorizing half a juz of the Quran, half a page of the Quran a day, then he should do that. If he is only capable of reading half a juz of the Quran a day, he should do that, so long as it is continuous. But if you take now and you say, I'm going to memorize, let's say, 5 pages of the Quran and read 3 juz a day, and you do that for 3 days, you continue with that 3, and then you stop, you are not better than the one who does half a page and reads half a juz a day, and he is continuous in that. So it is important that one does little but is continuous, not that one does much and then stops. You study for 3 days and then you stop from one, then you study for 3 days, you stop from. No, rather, the one who does little by little and continues, it is better for him. And as we mentioned to many brothers before, you memorize 1 hadith a day, at the end of the year you memorize 354 hadith. You memorize 10 hadith one day, and you don't memorize for the rest of the year, you've only memorized 10 hadith. And that memorization of 10 hadith it may not even be strong. So don't memorize 1 hadith a day, even if they are small, short hadith. At the end of the year, he's memorized 354 hadith. But if he memorizes 10 hadith in one day, and he has that nishat, that kind of energy to do so, and then the next week he memorized 10, and the next week he memorized 10, and then he cuts off for the rest of the year, he's only memorized 30. And it may not even be strong memorization. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-Qasta tablughu, that adopt a middle, moderate, and regular course whereby you will reach your target. And he said to Ashaj Abdul Qais, indeed, there are 2 traits in you that Allah loves, forbearance and deliberateness. So one should be from those who takes his seeking knowledge step by step and slowly, and should not try to rush and attain everything at once, and then cuts off from it. Man rama al-ilmu jumla, dhahaba anhu jumla. The one who tries to attain all of knowledge at once, he'll leave them all at once. As Imam Az-Zuhri rahimahullah, he mentioned. And one should know that the intent behind knowledge is to reach benefit to the people, or indicate them upon good. So if you are teaching them that which they can't understand or comprehend properly due to them being beginners, or not too strong, or young in age, then in reality it leads to them turning away and stopping seeking knowledge. Example you find with some of the different areas, example back home, they teach the people ilm al-kalam, knowledge of rhetoric. And this is a subject which is extremely hard to understand, let alone for those who have studied it a lot, let alone for those who have not studied at all. Especially for those who have not studied at all, it is extremely hard and difficult. And as the scholars mentioned, that al-ilmu bihi jahl wa jahlu bihi ilm. That to know it is in reality ignorance, and to not know it in reality is knowledge. But they teach them this subject. And for that reason, many of the people have found that knowledge is hard and have turned away from it because they teach them this subject. Similarly, many in the madaris nowadays, the youth are taught subjects or affairs which is not suitable for their level. They are merely taught these subjects so that it could be put on a paper that we taught our students these subjects. Example, he has not studied Arba'in al-Nawawi, the 40 hadith, and his madrasa is teaching him Sahih al-Bukhari. He has not studied, example, Thalathatul Usul, and they are teaching him, example, Ma'arij al-Qabul. These are books that you take step by step with the students. If they're not able to understand the simple ones, let alone understanding that which is difficult for them, and difficult even for some of the students of knowledge who have studied a bit to understand. So one should teach with that which is in regards to their capability of understanding, and not merely teach so that we put on a paper that we taught Sahih al-Bukhari, or we taught Sahih Muslim, or we taught Tafsir ibn Kathir. Rather, the intent is to reach benefit to the people, not merely to put your name beside a big book and say that you've taught it. For that does not benefit you, nor does it benefit the student. And as Shaykh Salih Hussein mentioned, that if he wanted to teach books that are his level, he would have taught big books. He doesn't have to teach small books, but because the students, in order for them to understand, these small books are the mabadi or the mafatih, they are the keys and the beginning steps of seeking knowledge. To get to those bigger books, you must learn these books. So one teaches books that are at the level and capability understanding of that student, or the student is teaching, not merely to teach big books and there's no benefit being reached, or the benefit is not great. And this is example from one of the brothers, Aslahullah. He was teaching the Awam, or some of the brothers in his area, in his group, Sahih Bukhari. If you were to ask him a simple question, a hadith of Arba'in al-Nawawi, he is not able to answer you that question. Or he does not even know maybe who even wrote the 40 hadith, or let alone that, what is the name of Imam al-Bukhari, and he's studying teaching them Sahih Bukhari. This is wrong. The intent behind knowledge is to reach benefit to the people, for them to understand slowly, so that they may understand and benefit. But if it goes in one ear and out the other, and the intent is just them sitting there, then there's no benefit for you nor benefit for them. Another benefit is that the intent behind knowledge is for the benefit to be attained, as we mentioned. If the student is not strong and not able, he is advised not to combine between two fields. If there is a benefit in combining between two or more fields, then there is no problem in that. Also, a student should take from every field that which is sufficient. And then he specializes in a field. Example from the way the Salaf, as Qazi mentioned, they studied every field, a part of it. So they got sufficient in all the fields. But then this one specialized in hadith, this one in tafsir, this one in Arabic grammar. And this is something which is no problem with. For it's not often that you find one who is strong in all of the fields. And this is rare. This is rare to find someone who is strong in every single field. Only the most intelligent of the people can attain that. As Imam Shawkani rahimahullah mentioned, to be strong in every single field. So one generally studies sufficient amounts from every field, that which suffices him, and then he goes on to specializing in that which he wants to specialize in. Then he mentions number 10. Point number 10. He should mention to the student the principles of the field which he is studying, those which are all-inclusive principles, and those which are used most often, or most applicable, or applicable most of the time. Also, he should mention to him the affairs which are exempt from the principles. Example, every wudu must be in order, the acts of wudu must be done in order, except that which is disrupted by ghusl janaba. So this is a principle. Example, every wudu you must follow the order in that wudu, except when it comes to ghusl janaba. So if someone asks you a question, example, I made wudu and I did not follow the order, and he does not mention ghusl janaba, then the principle goes back to every wudu must be in order, except in ghusl janaba. So it makes knowledge easier. Also, you should mention every foundation and that which is built upon it from every field he is in need of, such as knowledge of tafsir, knowledge of hadith, the chapters of usul of the religion, meaning aqidah, and usul al-fiqh, an-nahwu, as-sarf, and al-fiqh, the language, and similar to that, either by reading a book in the subject or taking it step by step, meaning going from a small book to larger books. This is all if the sheikh knows those subjects. If not, he should not try to teach them, rather only teach that which is proficient in. From that which is befitting is that he mentions to the students the rare occurrences of different rare affairs, the different ajib fatwas and meanings, and from that which the noble one shouldn't be ignorant of, such as the names of the famous companions, the tabi'een, such as the 4 khulafa, the rest of the 10 granted paradise, and the 12 an-nuqaba, those who witnessed Badr, those who narrated a lot, the abadila, the 7 fuqaha, the 4 scholars of the madhabs. He should know their names, their kunyas, their ages, when they pass away, and those after them from the scholars. That which you benefit from their good manners, the different characteristics and situations. You should know that as well. By that, he will attain by many of these benefits, great benefits. Then he mentioned he should be warned from competing and being envious in regards to some of them who have attained much benefit, or due to being increased in virtues. For the reward of their virtues returns to them. Then purify themselves with knowledge and actions is for them. Thus it is not befitting to occupy oneself with looking at that which they have attained, due to that which will cause an evil result in his heart. And they are for them in the dunya, dua, and beautiful mention, and in the hereafter, great reward. Some benefits regarding the speech of the author. One is that knowing the principle of the field helps in understanding that field. Meaning, if you know the principles and the different affairs that enter into that principle, if an affair comes up to you or mentioned to you, and you know the principle in that field, you can quickly return it to that. Example, al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. This principle that the certainty is not taken away by doubt. It calls the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, أنه جاء رجل شكي إليه أنه يجد شيء في الصلاة, that a man came to complain that he felt something in his prayer. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينصرف حتى يسمع صوتا أو يجد ريحا. He should not leave until he smells something or he feels something. Now you have a principle. Someone comes to you and says, I know I made wudu, but I am doubtful if my wudu broke. He's certain about the wudu, but doubtful about the wudu breaking. You go back to the principle. Al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. You are certain about this and doubtful about that. That which you're certain about remains. So in this way, knowing the principles in a field, or knowing the foundational knowledge in that field, helps a lot. And it is important. For that reason, usul al-fiqh that we're studying, and also qawaid al-fiqh that Brother Faisal studied, taught us, it is important. These fields are important unto understanding these affairs. So one should pay great concern to these affairs. Learning principles is very important. Imam Sa'id rahimahullah, for I remember, he wrote a book taking 1,000 principles from the books of Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, and putting it in a book form. Principles are very important when it comes to trying to understand knowledge, and it makes it easier to understand. Another benefit mentioned that Shaykh al-Uthaymeen mentioned that knowledge is a never-ending ocean, which one cannot reach its end. But in its foundations is easy to attain it, so be eager in regards to that. You will find a way. And this was mentioned in poetry, but we mentioned it by meaning. Similarly, Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah mentioned that the one who leaves off the principles or foundations will be deprived of reaching his goal. So if you know the foundation principles and the affairs that are exempted, you'll understand that field and chapter. It is important for a student to memorize different principles and to write them down, so that it makes easy to him different affairs that are brought up to him. Similarly, when studying books, one should study a book that is mu'tamad, that is relied upon in that field and summarized. He should not occupy himself with that which isn't relied upon. Also, he should not go to large books and the summarized books, since the summarized books are the keys to the doors of knowledge. But if one starts with a large book, then he will cut him off, or he'll stop studying it due to its length, and he'll not be able to understand the field. An example of this is, as some of the scholars have mentioned, example, in al-Nahu, what is mu'tamad, for the beginner is that he studies Ajrumiyya. But you find some, they go to different books that are not mu'tamad in the field, and they do not have much explanations to it. If that book was better than this one, then the scholars would have explained it. For that reason, they say that stick to the books of the scholars they explain much, or they are relied upon in that field, for it makes gaining knowledge easier. Since example, if you pick up an Ajrumiyya, you have many explanations you can find for the book. But you find a rare random book in regards to An-Nahu, maybe a beginner book, but it's not mu'tamad, and you'll not find explanations for that book, and it may be harder to attain that which you would have attained if you stuck to the path of what the scholars have outlined and mentioned that these books are mu'tamad, relied upon and summarized. Study with this book, start with this one, this one, this one, and do not go to books that they have not mentioned, for it makes a path way longer to understanding and benefiting. Similarly, the author mentioned that if the teacher wants to do tajreej of the books, he could do so, meaning that you start with a short book in the field, then you go to the middle one, and then you go to a large one. And this is often done with the Mashaykh of Yemen. You'll find example, they start in different books example, they start Thalathatul Usul, they go to Qawaid al-Arba', and then they go to another book, and then they go to Kitab al-Tawheed, Kashf al-Shubuhat. An example like this. They do tajreej. They go from small books to larger books. You understand the small book, the student understands it, then he goes to a different book. Example in Ilm al-Hadith, you start Bayquniyya, then example, you go to Nukhbatul Fikr if you want, or if you want, you go to Nuzhat al-Nadar, or if you want, you go to Ikhtisar Ulum al-Hadith of Ibn Kathir rahimahullah. You do tajreej. You go from a small book summarize, you understand it, you go to a book which is a bit longer than it, you understand that one, and then you go to the large book and you understand that one, and now you have understood the field. Now you've understood the field. Then the author mentions that you should not be ignorant regarding some of these names and affairs of the noble companions, radiallahu anhum, and the tabi'een. From those he mentioned, example, the four khulafa. It is important for a Muslim to know these. The four khulafa are Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. As for the rest of the 10 granted or promised paradise, there are Az-Zubair ibn al-Awam, Talha ibn Ubaidillah, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Abi Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, and Sa'id ibn Zayd. So these are the 10 that are promised paradise by the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. The four khulafa, they're known, and then these 6 are mentioned after them to complete the 10. As for the 12 nuqaba that he mentioned, then there were 12 men from the Ansar that the Prophet ﷺ placed in charge of their people during the second Bay'atul Aqaba. As for those who related much of the hadith al-Muqthirina fi riwaya, then there are those who related the most hadith. There are Abu Huraira, Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, Anas, Ibn Malik, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and Aisha radiallahu anhum. These are the 7 that narrated the most hadith. They're not in order, but they're the 7. Abu Huraira, Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, Anas ibn Malik, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and Aisha radiallahu anhum. Then he mentioned the Abadila, those who had the name Abdullah, and their fatwa, when they gave a fatwa, they will say this is the ruling of the Abadila. As we mentioned them before, there are 4. They are Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Zubair, and Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. The reason why it's these 4 is because it was said that if they agreed upon something, it's the same of the Abadila. And their lives, they live longer than other Sahaba, such as Abdullah Mas'ud. That's why he's not mentioned from the Abadila, whereas he died early, radiallahu anhu. And he mentioned the Fuqaha al-Sab'a, the 7 Fuqaha. What is intended by the Fuqaha al-Sab'a? There are 7 scholars of fiqh or jurisprudence from the tabi'een who lived at the same time Medina. And if they gave a fatwa, it would be said the same of the Fuqaha of Sab'a. Example, they were Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, Urwat ibn Zubair, Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr as-Siddiq, so mean the grandson of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Ubaidillah ibn Utbah ibn Mas'ud, Kharij ibn Zayd ibn Thabit, and Sulaiman ibn Yasar. As for the 7th one, they differed. Some of them said it was Abu Salama ibn Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and there's a statement of majority of them. Some of them said it was Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, And some of them said it was Abu Bakr ibn Abdurrahman ibn al-Harith ibn Hisham al-Makhzumi. If you see, many of them were the children of the Sahaba. Radiallahu anhum. Example, Kharija ibn Zayd ibn Thabit. He was the son of Zayd ibn Thabit. Abu Salama ibn Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the son of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Showing that they were from the children, many of them were from the children of Sahaba, but these are the 7 Fuqaha Sab'a, and it's important that we know these benefits. It is important that we know the likes of these benefits. For these are benefits that the scholars mention often, and a student of knowledge should know them. You should know these names as the author mentioned. As for the 4 Imams of the Madhab, then there are Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Imam Ahmad rahimahumullah. So these are some benefits regarding these points that the author mentioned, and we will stop with this inshallah for today and continue next week inshallah.